we live, and we love it out there. Um, I was a teacher for 12 years. I taught in Mays, and my wife's always been a photographer. And then I slowly started doing some video work, mostly with drones. I've always flown RC airplanes and stuff like that. And then we started strapping cameras to them and getting video, and it slowly became a passion. And then that passion started slowly becoming a passion for getting video around Kansas. I grew up in Kansas, and I did not realize what is out there. There are some absolutely stunning places I just didn't know existed. So we started trying to find them and getting to them and making video on them, and we just continued to fall in love. Kansas is incredible, so we just became a bit obsessive about Kansas. And then I met this guy named Nick Apt, who can't be here today because he's sick. It was super sad. And he's actually from Florida. So this guy that grew up on an island off the coast of Florida got transplanted to Kansas. And, you know, you would think, right, oh, he's going to hate it. He's going to be one of the people that's always just like, oh, Kansas is terrible. He was blown away, and he fell in love, and now he is completely obsessed, and he started a Facebook page called Scenic Kansas, which now has over 40,000 people that follow it. And so we were both following the same path of just exploring Kansas and making films, and we met each other. And then we're like, well, let's start doing cool stuff together. So eventually we decided that we both separately decided we want to make an actual film, just a passion project that we just wanted to show off. And then we were like, well, where are we going to show it? What are we going to do with it? I guess we could just put it on Facebook. I could show it on a big screen in my front yard. But then I was like, well, maybe I'll submit it to a film festival. But then I was like, you know, as cool as something like Tallgrass Film Festival is, it's incredible, but it's for film buffs. It's for people that are really into the film world, and it's for people all across the world. I was like, I want Kansans to see this film. Like, I want my people to see this. So it just kept going. We're like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to show it? And we kind of decided, you know what? If there's not something out there for us to show it, we're just going to create it. So we're like, let's just make a film festival, a Kansas Film Festival. What I do for a career now is video work, and I know a lot of Wichita and this area has incredible talent in the film world. So we decided, let's make a film festival that only Kansas filmmakers can be a part of. We don't have submissions from anywhere else except for Kansas, and every film has to be about Kansas or Kansans. And people thought we were crazy, and we offhandedly mentioned it to some people in Augusta who happened to be on the Arts Council, and they were like, we have a historic theater, and we want to host it. So Augusta jumped on board, and they were incredible, and so we held the first one last year in October called the Seldem Film Festival. We named it after just our idea that there's a lot of filmmakers and stories in Kansas that just aren't heard and seen. And it was great, and it went well. We had a good amount of people. We're coming back next year. So that's kind of how this all started. The films last year were amazing. Mine, of course. Nick's, which you'll see today, which is about the Medicine Hills, so Medicine Lodge and the Gyp Hills. And then we had one about the Kansas Herbological Society, which at its core is snake hunters. And so people are going out and picking up these huge rocks and finding like horned lizards and this stuff I didn't know existed in Kansas. We had one about a Buffalo soldier and his time in the war and what happened when he came home, and it was really a beautiful story. We had one about a clock. That may not sound interesting, but it was beautiful. I think it's in either McPherson or Marion or one of those, but it's an old clock tower that still has to be wound by hand weekly, and it was a beautiful story about the guy who still does that. We had stories about the black squirrels in Marysville, which the story goes that there was a circus in town that had black squirrels as an exhibit, and then they got out, and now they live there. And that's like the only place in Kansas where you can go, and you go to the park, and there's just full black squirrels, and it's crazy. Just lots of cool stories that you just don't hear about. So we're going to show you a couple today. Mine's called Buffalo Rome, Ending the Discouraging Word. My specialty, if you want to call it that, is I fly drones. I love epic scenery. So that was basically my whole premise to this. And I had to find a way to make a film kind of around that. So my film is focused mostly on proving that Kansas has incredible scenery. You just may not have ever seen it. So that's the whole point here. I do want to give a warning, though. There's different sections. And one section is called FPV, which does anybody know what FPV stands for in the drone world? It's called first person view. And in that situation, I actually put these big, ridiculous looking goggles on, and my drone has a camera, and it's like I'm flying from the drone. So it's a first person view. So it's like I'm in the cockpit. But the difference there is that it's not stable, it's not smooth, it's not beautiful footage like you see on the rest of it. Like I'll be at the top of a cliff and I'll go up and I'll just dive down the cliff. Some people have a hard time with it. Even in the film festival, quite a few people said, "Yep, I just had to look at the floor for that," because it's very, very aerobatic. So just a warning, when you see me talking about this clip and I have these big ridiculous goggles, the next section is going to be a bit crazy. Are there any questions up to this point, or do we just want to watch the film?
So it's like you were in the roller coaster and going down?
Exactly, yeah.
You were in a plane?
I was just sitting on a stool, but I have goggles on, and it's a wireless transmission. So I'm flying the drone from just sitting there with goggles on. So the drone has a camera in it that's just sending me the video. Yeah, I wasn't actually in it, but it feels like it. When I shoot that, I can't stand up. I actually have to sit on the ground and put my legs out because I'll get wobbly otherwise because it's crazy. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, well then we'll just get it rolling hopefully here for you. It is quiet to start, so. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, Adam. How you doing?
I appreciate you coming out here.
Oh, it's good to see you. How you been?
Not bad, not bad.
Cool. So, what's going on in your world?
That was a great leg cross. We did it at the same time.
Yeah,
I liked it.
it's perfectly timed.
Man, I've been working on that, trying to work on that Kansas film I told you about.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I brought you out here to talk to you a little bit. Just kind of, because I've really hit a wall with it. I don't know where to go next. I don't know what I've just hit a wall. So
Yeah.
I needed somebody to bounce some ideas off with.
Well,
if that's
sure.
cool.
I mean, I'd be happy to. I mean, what have you thought up so far?
I've got a lot done, but I haven't started yet.
Oh.
So I don't really. That's my problem is I have no idea what I'm gonna make. My struggle so far is being I don't know I have a story. What's my story?
Well, how about this? What if you made it about what you're dealing with right now? Like you're trying to come up with a story. What if you start out from this point and like make it a story about a story of you trying to come up with an idea, and as you come up with ideas, you can have it develop and build as you go. I mean, what would that be?
I dig it. So like a Kansas movie Inception, like
Exactly.
a film about making a film about me filming a film.
Exactly. It could happen like a scene like this.
Yes.
Like it could happen or start like someplace just like here.
I don't know. I mean, starting a film with two guys sitting around a campfire just seems super corny.
I wouldn't say so.
You think it'd be cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just, since I have you here, let's just walk through the entire thing.
Yeah.
Let's just brainstorm this all the way out.
Bounce it off.
So scene one, if this is a film about me making a film, I think this film has to start by grabbing their attention. We have to come out of the gate and be like, wham, bam,
Right.
Kansas.
Bring in something truly epic.
So let's just, I think it's gonna start out with just epicness. We're gonna slam some stuff in here, that stuff they've never seen.
Yeah.
So let's bring you in on this first one. I'm gonna throw together epic footage, some killer music, and I want you to step in like full-blown movie guy voice.
We all have our perspective of Kansas. That view often lines up with common Kansas stereotypes. Whether you live across the country or you were born and raised here, it's likely that you haven't experienced the full beauty or magnificence of this great state. Yet Kansas isn't just a drive-through state. It's a beautiful oasis with its own unique appeal. Join us for a journey of epicness as we explore what makes Kansas special. Breaking stereotypes, exploring the natural beauty, and trekking through the Great Plains. This is Kansas.
So I liked the epic, right? But I think we need to make sure we give a shout out to the OG Kansas. You know, we have some of the, if not the biggest sections of natural tallgrass prairie left in the world. And that's incredible, something we should celebrate. So maybe we can kind of step back to almost like what you talked about, a documentary style here. Beautiful tallgrass prairie, bison, some of the classic stuff. And you can just jump in with some facts, some history.
Yeah, so more of a standard documentary, historical, but not too much, you know, maybe just a little clip here and there, just to give you a taste of what Kansas is in more of a traditional sense.
I like it.
Cool.
Kansas is situated on the American Great Plains. It became the 34th state on January 29th, 1861. Over 70 species of grasses can be identified in the Flint Hills. Many species of tall grass can reach heights of 4 to 7 feet. Given the right growing conditions and location, reaching their full height in September and October. Fire is a fundamental part of the tallgrass prairie ecosystem, adapted for use by both the native peoples of the Flint Hills and by European and American settlers. Fire burns away old growth and gives tallgrass prairie plants greater access to sunshine and moisture. Tallgrass prairie once covered 170 million acres of North America, but within a generation, most of it has been transformed into farmland. Today, less than 4% remains intact, mostly in the Kansas Flint Hills.
I dig that. That was nice. That was a nice move from epic to informational.
Yeah.
But then where?
Well, I mean, like, it's so far, it's kind of like a deluxe gourmet buffet of, you know, prime visual storytelling. But I think people really want to know you. Maybe more like a vlog style. Like, you know, YouTube is super big and social media is super big, and like it give you a different perspective of like you.
So just jump in there with like a selfie stick, right?
Exactly.
And just selfie stick for a while.
That's right, just your face. People would love that.
I mean, can you imagine just this being on big screen?
Absolutely.
I think it could get an Emmy.
Man, I just get jitters just thinking about it right now.
All right, so just got done shooting some crazy legit drone stuff. I was gonna take a little video here and let you follow me through. I'm about to go down what's known as Frying Pan Canyon out here. You can see we're about to enter it here. Super excited about this. I haven't actually been to this canyon yet. I'm assuming I'm probably one of the first to be here. Only a few people have made it this far. You might be wondering, well, why is it called Frying Pan Canyon? It's a really interesting story. It goes back into the late 1750s, I believe. And there was a pioneer woman that got trapped here because she fell off of the covered wagon, and all she had with her was a frying pan. And this was while they were on the Oregon Trail, and it took her team quite a while to realize that she was gone, and then to come back for her. Here, I'll kind of show you again here, this really cool place. Anyways, all she had with her was a frying pan, and she used that to kill a few deer and then cook them in it. And then she fashioned some sort of shelter out of it. It was either a very large frying pan or a very small woman. History didn't record that, so we don't know for sure. But it's an interesting story and just a cool place, you know, to walk in those footsteps of history out here. And it's also just super beautiful. Hey guys, I'm out here at Elk City Lake hiking. The trail out here, the main trail, it's about a 15-mile trail. And it's just gorgeous. Just every mile of it, it's incredible. And you know, I'm getting all the footage I can, but I'll be honest, this is one of my most favorite locations, but it's also proving to be one of the hardest to film. And I don't know why, it's just very difficult to capture the full just grandness of this place. I don't know if you can see it in this footage. There are two very large birds that keep swarming around me. You know, of course, when I start shooting, they fly away. But they keep swarming around my head. Not really close, but kind of close. I'm pretty sure it means they've accepted me as part of their pack, which is really cool. I've always wanted to be a part of a bird pack. So that's exciting. Neat thing that happened today for sure. You know, ran into quite a few people that have hiked this place. And to a person, hey, have you ever been to Elk City? Yep. What'd you think? It was incredible. And the next word, every single person, the next thing they say, doesn't feel like you're in Kansas. And guys, that's kind of what we're leaning into here, right? That's what we're trying to disprove. This is Kansas. It's always been here. We just haven't loved on it enough. I'm out here in a Quivira Wildlife Refuge wetlands. One of a couple massive wetlands we have here in Kansas. Besides it being super beautiful and super cool, just in general, found a lot of birds. Came out here last year, and there's a huge population of bald eagles out here. But can I just say, besides the beauty, how much I appreciate places that are named appropriately. These are wetlands, and there is just a lot of water out here. I appreciate well-named locations. It makes sense to me, and I like a world that makes sense. But you just need to get out here, hike it. Even the first mile is unbelievable. I just advise doing it on a day that's not 95 degrees and 100% humidity is brutal.
Yeah, the close-up Adam thing. I think there's something there.
I mean,
It's you.
it was probably the most handsome section of this entire film.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily have the good looks that you have. But maybe I could render my voice of some use to your project. Yeah,
What if we let you flex in this next section?
I like it.
So, what are some different things we can do here, right? I'll just throw in some film. I'll just
Okay.
throw in some footage
Yeah.
and just let you have some fun.
Yeah.
So what are some different characters you could bring into this?
I mean, you could have good old Dave from Australia. It's great. You know, there's nothing like sitting out in the outback. Just a nice old Aussie in the wonderful flatlands of Kansas. You know, that could be a possibility.
I like it. What else?
You know, you could have California, man. Love it. Just totally dig it here. Man, it's so right.
Let's roll with California guy and Kansas.
Okay. Sweet.
Hi, my name is Tyler Andrews. And when I told my friends I was moving from Cali to Kansas, they thought I was crazy. And they'd be right. But certainly not because I decided to move here. Growing up, I was always told that Kansas was boring and that I should avoid it at all cost. My friends would say, it's scientifically proven that it's flatter than a pancake, bruh. Well, I don't know much about science, but I know I'm scientifically way more happy here in Kansas. Kansas is legit, and I love the natural beauty that it has. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I can't surf, but look at all the sick turf. Kansas is radical.
I like California guy.
Yeah. All right.
That was a cool dude. What if we jump from that?
Okay.
Completely opposite direction now. What if we go classy? What do you got in that range?
I mean, perhaps just your average British man who just loves life, loves Kansas.
My name is Benjamin Williamson. There's no place quite like Kansas, and as an author, I love to visit here. The green, inviting prairies and trees leave me feeling like I'm home. Although I do miss my beautiful bride-to-be, Eliza Puddington. I can't say that I care for her last name, and that's why I'm giving her mine. Anywho, I love to explore, and Kansas always seems to offer something new every time I come to visit here. It is my sincere hope in my journeys that I'll be able to share the unique attraction I hold to this place in my new book. Kansas, a state of mind, peace, and tranquility.
So, I noticed you're wearing goggles.
Yeah, I just got this new app. It's called Virtual Fire Pit. And it's like super immersive, man. It feels like I can feel the warmth. It's amazing.
You do know you're sitting in front of a fire, right?
I know. I was just kidding. I know that. No, man. These are my FPV goggles, right? And so, Ian.
Yes.
So, these are what I wear for specific drones when I get certain type of footage. You know, I get to see what the drone sees from inside here. What if we did just like a whole section of that, right? Just like crazy diving loops, through stuff, under stuff, over stuff. Like believe it or not, Kansas has some pretty crazy cliffs. What if we did some cliff diving, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Just some. Let's bring this out of. Let's like break out some techno, get some beats going, and just totally shift this mood.
I like it.
Awesome.
Sounds pretty cool.
Well, I want to go back to my virtual fire pit. You all right?
That's a little too much for me, man. Talk about motion, man.
It's pretty cool, right?
Epic.
Epic. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So maybe we should slow the next one down. Give you a break.
Sure.
Honestly, man, I mean, I've hit all the stuff I want to. I feel like I've said what I need to. I've shown what I need to. So now we just end it.
You know, I've been in this a lot as voiceover guy. I think the last one needs to be you.
So we just end it with beautiful Kansas, Adam's words and Adam's voice.
Yeah.
I've been filming Kansas stuff for quite a while already. I've been pretty obsessed with Kansas for a while, but there was still even a part of me that still viewed Kansas as a wheat field, sunflower state. But since really starting this film and doing nothing but surrounding myself with the most epic and beautiful parts of Kansas, it's been shocking to me how much my mentality has changed. At this point, I honestly can say there's just not even a small piece of me that views Kansas as that wheat field, sunflower state. There's just so much more to this place to be labeled as that. When I started, I had a list of 40 or 50 places I wanted to get to, most of which I hadn't ever been to. But I just honestly ran out of time. this film maybe encompasses about 20 of those spots. And there is just so much more to still see and explore. There's so many incredibly unique places in this state. So now I challenge you. Walk, hike, explore some of the incredible places here. And join me in getting out where the buffalo roam. All right, that was my film. Any questions about the process or locations? Oh, go ahead.
How long did it take you to film that, produce all that together?
So that's kind of a hard question because some of that footage has been, my archives over a few years. From fully starting and really get into it, probably about 6 months. Mostly because it's not my this isn't my job, and so I had to, take off time on weekends, and it was a crazy time. I would have to, I'd head out on a Friday, I'd head a few hours, I'd get a sunset at one location, I'd drive to the next location a few hours away, I'd sleep in my car, I'd get sunrise there, and I'd get some more stuff, and I'd drive to the next location for sunset, and you just do that for a few weekends to try to capture that, and then you have some editing time. So yeah, I'd say about 6 months of dedicated trying to get out and get it, yeah. Locations are amazing. I don't know who all here is familiar with some of these places. One of the frustrations with Kansas is that there is beautiful places, but a lot, I believe 2% of Kansas is public land. So even a lot of these really gorgeous places you can't go to, you can't legally hike in it. Everything I shot, I tried very purposely to shoot only public access land. So the stuff you can see, the only piece in here that isn't is what's called the Arickaree Breaks. Has anybody ever heard of that or been there? The Arickaree Breaks is northwest Kansas, and like part of the breaks actually goes into Nebraska. And that's some of the big canyons and drop-offs that you see there, and it is stunning land, and there's not a single bit of it that's public land. So you can only drive through it on dirt roads and look at it and enjoy it, but it's sad that we can't hike it. A lot of the chalk formations are western Kansas, Castle Rock, Monument Rocks. Little Jerusalem is a new state park they opened up a couple years ago, and that's an incredible place with a really nice path, super nice, easy walk. So that's a lot of that. The really wooded area was Elk City Lake. The trail out there is gorgeous. So yeah, that's a few of the spots. Cedar Bluff Reservoir is nuts. Clark County, there's a whole list. There's a lot of places.
Where'd you find the buffalo?
So there's a few places. One of them is called Big Basin, and that's a public land area, and you can drive back in there, and there's just a herd in there, and so you can drive back in there, and they'll come by, and they'll come around if you can locate them. When I found them there, I had to walk to them. There's also a place called Maxwell Wildlife Refuge, which is from me in Sedgwick, which is about, it's up by kind of Salina area-ish, and that's where the elk were too. And so it's this massive area that they have a huge herd of buffalo and elk, and they give like, the footage I had of the elk, I was actually, there was 30 other people with me. They give tram rides. So you go out there and they get on a tractor and they have this big just cart they pull behind them, and they start feeding them, and all of a sudden you have bison like 4 feet away and elk herds just walking in front of you. It's beautiful, and I didn't realize we had a huge herd of elk in Kansas. So those are the two main places with the bison. There's a few other places you can find them, but yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
There were some scenes with the drones where it seemed to be flying away from where you were sitting. Was that running film backwards, or did you turn the camera around?
That's a trick I can't release. It was flying backwards. I would fly forward up to me and then just reverse it, and when I was editing it, and just make it fly backwards. That works on scenery really well. You can't do that when I'm in towns and stuff like that, because then the cars start driving backwards and people know it. But out in the middle of nowhere, unless you happen to catch a bird flying backwards, you can totally pull it off and nobody really knows. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Bison definitely walk backwards all the time. Yeah. Good. I mean, do you want, if there's no other questions? Yeah.
Did you do some of the filming up around, Matfield Green? And
Yes.
my grandson was in that film. Brent Patton.
I don't know him.
He's
Uh-uh.
a real tall kid, but he was in with somebody that they went to Climax and Matfield Green.
Oh, very cool. That's a beautiful place. Like,
Is there someone else besides you that's been doing this?
yeah, yep. We've had a slow progression of a lot of people getting more excited about Kansas and making films. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, yeah, if you go up to, what's those cattle pens? Bazaar. Actually, and one of the roads that connects to the cattle pen says it's a private road, but it's actually not. And if you take that, you can go out into, there's some rock creeks down there, and that's some of the most gorgeous Flint Hills area. I mean, that whole area is just beautiful, yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. We're slowly getting people excited about Kansas. Yeah. No. Yep. Good. Do you want to take a break? And then we'll show you the next one, and I'll talk to you a little bit about it. I can't give you as much details about the next one because I didn't film it, but I can give you a little bit. So we'll take a little break.
Probably come back about 10 till 10.
Yep, sounds good.
Barbecue.
Okay. We'll start the next one here. I will kind of pretend I'm Nick. So like I said, this one is made from a guy named Nick Apt, who was a Florida transplant. And he's really fallen in love with the Gypsum Hills, which is the Medicine Lodge area. Incredible landscape there. And there's one specific place there called the Gant Larson Ranch. And what's cool about this place, beyond being stunning scenery, is that it is a ranch, it's privately owned, and they have fully opened it up to people. So they've created a parking lot and some bathrooms, and you can camp there, and they basically just say, here's our ranch, thousands of acres, have fun. And you can hike it, and you can explore it, and that ranch in that area has some really crazy history. So Nick kind of goes into the area, but also kind of touches on the history because it's a neat spot, and so I'll just kind of let the video speak to that. And this one's called Medicine Hills. And just in case you're wondering, on this one, the voiceover is done by Nick. Nick has a great voice, totally radio voice guy.
Barber County is a region unlike any other in Kansas. It's a region that's as rich in history as it is scenic splendor. A region in which the indigenous peoples of the southern plains would hunt, and where bison still roam today. A region where pioneers suffered countless adversities and spawned a community that still honors that heritage. A region that is rugged and wild. And a region that retains its rugged beauty no matter the season. Come with me on a tour through the hills that shaped history, the Medicine Hills. Having been raised on an island in Florida only a half-mile wide by 6 miles long, I've always been impressed with the expanse of land in Kansas, but always most impressed with Barber County and the Gypsum Hills. It's such a truly unique place in Kansas, with its deep canyons, buttes, and mesa topography. The region is rugged and remote, and its close proximity to Wichita always made the perfect retreat from noisy city life. On my numerous excursions to the hills, I've often looked out across the expanse and wondered, who were the people here before westward expansion? Who were the pioneers who came to this part of the frontier, and why? And most importantly, who is here today and what did they do? Through research and new friendships, I've collected stories that answer those questions. And that's what I'd like to share with you in this video. But first, let's talk about the land itself. Barber County is located in south central Kansas along the Oklahoma border and encompasses a large portion of the Red Hills physiographic region. The area is well watered for a western Kansas region, and the main drainage takes place in the Medicine River, Elm Creek, and the Salt Fork of the Arkansas River in the southwest. Water is one of the factors that brought people to this area. The Kiowa would build sweat lodges along the Medicine River and use the water for its high mineral content, which gave it medicinal properties. The town Medicine Lodge is located near the site of one of those old Kiowa lodges, and is also historically known for being the location of a major peace treaty that involved a variety of tribes and the United States government. As you head west out of Medicine Lodge on Highway 160, you're suddenly transported to another world. There are a treasure trove of landmarks to discover along Highway 160, also known as the Gypsum Hills Scenic Byway. One of the first major historic landmarks is just southwest of Medicine Lodge. It's called Jackass Canyon. On April 30th, 1884, Henry Newton Brown, a marshal from Caldwell, and a small group of outlaws attempted to rob the Medicine Valley Bank. The robbery was unsuccessful, and the bank's president and chief cashier were murdered in the process.
The marshal deputy from Caldwell, of all people, rode over here to rob the bank, and they picked up, I think, 3 more.
They decided that they would run over to Medicine Lodge because our bank happened to have a little wad of cash in it because of the cattle pools, and there was the roundup activity, and so there was a lot of money changing hands. But they did not count on Kansas weather. Normally being hot, dry, They came to Medicine Lodge when it was pouring down rain, and the robbery went wrong.
They walked in there, and the president lunged for the vault, and they shot and killed both of them. They didn't get any money.
They took out going south, and what their intentions was to go straight out through the passage that basically is 160 highway now. That was really the only passage through the hills.
As fate would have it, a homesteader erected the first barbed wire fence in the region the day before, forcing the outlaws to detour to the south. They were planning to take a long canyon straight to the gap, but mistakenly entered a box canyon to the north that cut off their escape.
A posse was formed, and they changed them out to Box Canyon, and it was raining, and they got cornered in there and couldn't get out.
There's no way out, and you cannot climb those hills, and the posse had them trapped rather quickly. They tried to hold up in there, and they told them they were going to dump barrels of burning kerosene off the side of the canyons and burn them out of there, and they finally gave up, and they came out and they brought them back to town.
So they brought them, put them in jail, really across from the bank, and then the townspeople were pretty upset that they killed the president and cashier, so they broke them out of jail and then took them a couple of blocks east of Kansas and Maine and hung them.
Marshall Brown went out game. They cut him down with a shotgun. He would not be hung.
So the coroner's reported they came to their death of hands unknown. So that ended that. So our bank's not been robbed since.
Kansas did not have the death penalty during that time, and lynchings were kind of rare, and so it kind of went down in history as one of the things that we were famous for. Apparently people just didn't believe that justice was going to get served, so they served it up themselves.
Further to the west and past the eastern escarpment of the Gypsum Hills is the next landmark on our tour, Flower Pot Mountain. This butte sits roughly 150 feet above the valley floor and resembles an upside-down flower pot. Located a short distance from Flower Pot Mountain and visible from Highway 160 is the landmark known as Twin Peaks, which is a prominence with two identical peaks on its summit. To the west, near Sun City, we find the remains of our next location, Natural Bridge. This natural bridge spanned 50 feet over Bear Creek and was once a spot where people would often visit for picnics. Sadly, the formation collapsed in the 1970s.
Natural Bridge, I've heard so many different stories on that. My folks, when they were dating in the 50s, went out to the Natural Bridge, and I remember a sign on 160 highway when I was a kid at Sun City, and there was a sign that said Natural Bridge. The Natural Bridge was one of the geological highlights of the state, and there are people from all over the state that came out to have picnics and to see the Natural Bridge. And but it's collapsed now, and it is on private property, and the owners really don't want people on there without permission. So
there's two schools of thought, one that it fell down and one that the landowner blew it up because he was tired of people coming out there and camping out. But so I never saw it for real because it was gone.
Now that you're familiar with the land, let's turn our attention to the people who lived here, died here, and made history here. I was born upon the prairie, where the wind blew free and there was nothing to break the light of the sun. I was born where there were no enclosures, and where everything drew a free breath. I know every stream and every wood between the Rio Grande and the Arkansas. I lived like my fathers before me, and like them, I lived happily. 10 Bears, Comanche Chief. Before white settlement, Barber County was a part of sacred hunting grounds utilized by communities of nomadic peoples that routinely migrated in pursuit of vast herds of bison across the southern plains. Descendant of Kiowa Chief Stumbling Bear, also as Seldem, tells us a little bit about what life was like during these times.
My name is Eugene Stumbling Bear, and I'm a full-blooded Kiowa Indian, and I was born and raised here in Wichita, Kansas. And as far as the peace treaty, my great-grandfather was one of the signers. Chief Stumbling Bear, in the Kiowa language, it's Seldem is how you pronounce Stumbling Bear. You know, at that time, buffalo was all over Kansas, and the Kiowas would follow the roaming buffalo and hunt, and most of Kansas was overrun with buffalo at that time, and the Kiowas were a nomadic tribe, so they followed the buffalo, and they had war parties and hunting parties that went out. I've heard of accounts where some parties would last, maybe they'd go in maybe a year or so, be gone that long. Everything they did, they got and took, you know, from the land and traded, you know, with other Indians and traders and whatnot. I would imagine they did a sweat lodge, which before the treaty signing, I would imagine they did a sweat lodge, which is a cleansing of your body, and they also would do a sweat if they went on a vision quest, more or less, and it's like you sweat all the poisons out of your body, and you sit in there and pray for guidance.
In October of 1867, approximately 5,000 representatives of the Arapaho, Apache, Kiowa, Cheyenne, and Comanche nations met United States government delegates to discuss the signing of a treaty that intended to bring peace to the area by relocating the Southern Plains tribes to reservations away from the Euro-American settlers. In the following decades, however, the agreements set forth in the treaty had been broken by the United States government.
They got together with the 5 tribes. They agreed to meet, and so where next to the Carrie Nation home is the old truck stop, and that is where the cavalry set up on the hill, and then the peace treaty, the signing itself, was just south of that.
You know, they had to have water, but the reason they had to have water, because I was always amazed that I've read accounts where there was like between 3,000 and 5,000 horses that they brought with them. I guess when they went to a treaty, you know, they all brought everything they owned, and they dressed in their finest when they went to meet with the generals and whatnot and talk over the accounts of the treaty.
And they weren't all there at the same time. They came at different times. And it wasn't signed by just 5 chiefs. It was signed, there were several chiefs in a tribe. And so they finally got the thing signed by all of them. And there was peace for a while, but it didn't last long. And that's the government's fault.
The Dawes Act had changed the allotment policy, and the tribes saw their territory reduced yet again. After the signing of the treaty and the relocation of the southern tribes of the plains, settlers began to move into the area and make lives for themselves. Frontiersman Derek Updegraff came to the area in 1873 and built a trading post. It wasn't long after that that the town site for Medicine Lodge was laid out and communities started to take shape.
Well, there was people here in like 1871. Osage Indians were here. So there wasn't too many settlers, but there was a stockade built downtown for the protection of the citizens' Medicine Lodge. There was also one built like 12 miles north of Medicine Lodge. There was one at Sun City, actually. But it didn't last too long, but people would stay in there, play cards and dance and all that sort of thing. And then it wasn't incorporated until 1879 and it became an official city. Is the early history, but people, I think they came here because of the water of the 2 rivers, the Medicine River and Elm Creek, and it was flat land to the east, and then Jip Hills to the west, and So we got a good variety. So it was a good spot, and we had good water and pretty good location. And they built the city, of course, on a hill. And then it just grew, you know, with businesses.
Marcia Hoagland, owner of Red Dirt Jacks and Medicine Lodge, has made it her mission to find and preserve the last remaining monuments to the people who lived in the early days of Medicine Lodge and its surrounding communities.
Very passionate about the history of Barber County. To me, history is more than just names and dates and, you know, collections. It's about the people and their stories.
Fast forward to today, and Barber County is currently inhabited by approximately 4,000 people, with Medicine Lodge being the most populous city. Gypsum mining, ranching, and agriculture are the main industries in the region. The people here today honor the past of this region by hosting a peace treaty festival and pageant that attracts thousands of visitors. The event is held once every 3 to 5 years.
The treaty has a rich history here. There are families that go back 5 generations and maybe more in acting in the peace treaty. So it is a tradition here that is long held, and it is a capsule of the history of the area. Some of it is a little loosely interpreted, but it tells basically the story of the region and of the signing of the treaty with the five tribes. And it is quite a spectacle. Nobody in the state of Kansas should not have gone to the peace treaty at least once in their life.
You know, the covered wagons coming in and circling, and people playing the fiddle and all that, and then the Indians, they're shooting at the settlers and what have you. Then in comes the cavalry. But there's Spanish dancers, there's prairie flowers, there's a Coronado expedition. They have a powwow and a rodeo. The Native Americans, you know, they do quite a show. I think they're going to do it out to the Peace Treaty grounds this year. There's, you know, controversy in respect with the fact that the government didn't keep any of the bargains they made in 1867, and so we're sitting here celebrating the signing of the peace treaty, but we didn't keep our word. So I still think it's a historic thing and worth doing. But yeah, I think they've rewrote it a bit to try to be up with modern times.
For people interested in getting their feet on the ground in the Gypsum Hills, there's no better place to explore on foot than Gypsum Hills Trail Rides, also known as the Gant Larson Ranch. Nestled among massive buttes and canyons, this 3,300-acre ranch along the Medicine River offers hiking, camping, and horseback riding unlike anywhere else in Kansas. Robert Larson, the owner, has lived on this land his whole life and is passionate about sharing its rugged beauty with people that are eager to appreciate it.
My great-grandfather started this ranch in 1883. You know, we had a few hikers would come out here occasionally, but with the help of Nick, you know, we've gotten more and more hikers, and we really enjoy it. You know, we feel like that this ranch is capable of handling hikers and horseback riders both. And I have, so far, I have really enjoyed having the hikers come out. This is one thing, the reason that we're still in business with the trail rides is we enjoy meeting new people and providing a place for them to go. Okay, a little bit of history behind Dix Peak. Back in the 1860s, a gentleman by the name of Uncle Dick Woodard was his name. He was a buffalo hunter. His camp where he stayed was just north of where Dix Peak was. And he would average killing between 1,200 and 1,800 head of buffalo a year in here. There's a knob over here in one of our south pastures. It's a really steep hill, and we often had people ride by that hill and think, well, that'd be kind of fun to climb with a horseback. And very few people have made it to the top of that, but how it got its name was my dad had a hired man that worked for him in the summertime, and he rode by that thing and he said, Bob, I'm going to ride to the top of that. My dad says, no, you can't. You cannot ride to the top of that. Well, he made it to the top, so that's how that got its name. And since then, there's probably been 6 or 8 people that have ridden to the top of that hill. It's very, very steep.
Land management and conservation is also on display in the Gypsum Hills, and the Alexander Ranch near Sun City is a perfect example of this. Winners of the 2019 Leopold Conservation Award, Brian and Ted Alexander have worked hard to remove invasive species of cedar from their land and coexist in harmony with the ecosystems on their 5,500-acre cattle operation. Beavers have been encouraged to return to the land, which has stimulated a thriving polyculture of plants and animals. With an attention to soil health, Brian Alexander has been able to create a regenerative habitat that is highly productive for his cattle, which he rotationally grazes across numerous pastures. Brian is also heavily involved in aiding his neighbors with controlled burns, which not only clears invasive species and promotes growth of native prairie grasses, but also helps prevent large-scale fires, like the huge wildfire of 2016 that plagued the area.
Yes, we had a wildfire come through here in 2016. It was named Anderson Creek Fire. I'm a rancher and I'm also a firefighter. So it was devastating in this country. When it came through our ranch, it burnt every acre of ground that we have, with the exception of about 120 acres.
And I went out to the Peachtree grounds and sat on a hill where I could watch the line of fire to see if it's going to come get us, because it looked like we were going to lose the town. But the wind changed, and it started going back south instead of north.
And we all said after that fire was over, we will never see one of these again. The very next year, we had one west of here, 50 miles, that was even larger than this one. So it's a wake-up call for ranchers, you know, to be better stewards of the land, so these kind of wildfires don't happen ever again.
I feel like I've learned a lot from my experiences in Barber County. I discovered that I deeply yearn for wide open spaces and feel a calling to honor the men and women that walked those spaces before me. I'm very thankful to have discovered Barber County, and I encourage you all to take your own journey.
We've always loved the Gyp Hills.
I just think for a little town, we've got more to offer than a lot of towns as far as history goes. And
We like to go out there, we like to look at the hills around that area and just to travel and, you know, see different things and wonder how it was. Imagine, you know, nothing out there and people riding horses and hunting buffalo, you know, how it was back then.
I want to lay awake in these ivory sheets. I want to know my aches in my newborn dream. I want to stimulate these stone thoughts. I don't feel buried inside.
Any questions on that one that I may or may not be able to answer? Yeah. No such thing. That was not Nick. Yeah, on my film with the campfire guy, I was telling her it was just some random kid I met. I call him a kid. He's much younger than me. and he's an incredible voice actor. He can just sit there and rattle off completely different things. And so I was trying to consider, how can I make 30 minutes or 25 minutes of aerial video break it up a little bit? And I was like, why don't you just come in here and do voiceover for me? So it's just a friend of mine. Yep. Yes? I don't know when the next one is. I think they did it last year, but I don't know for sure. Yeah. Last year, I don't know if he's coming back, but last year at the film festival, you saw he was in a few of the shots, a few of the reenactment shots of the Native Americans dancing. There's one guy with red and white outfit, really big outfit. His name is the Wichita War Dancer. And he actually performed before the film festival last year on stage, and it was something to see, because his outfit is huge, and watching him dance it's pretty special. And it's cool because he makes all his own audio, so he plays the drums and makes that, and it's a cool situation. So, yeah.
Was this film made prior to the Anderson fire or after the Anderson?
After. This film was made last year. So I don't know what we want to go next. I mean, that's those two we have. I do have the clock film. It's about 5 minutes long if we wanted to watch another one. Okay. We do. I have the squirrel one too, technically.
This courthouse was built in 1906, and shortly after, the clock was put in and operational. I think the first time I went up, I was rather awestruck just with the size of the clock. I'd never been around a clock other than a household clock before, and to see the size of it, it was so big, and I was just, I think, awestruck with, wow, here's this old clock that doesn't run on electricity, purely mechanical, and it's been running for over 100 years. I think I just kind of fell in love right from the start. This would be technology that would have been cutting edge and happening when my grandfather and my great-grandfather were alive. I grew up living actually with my grandfather. He always recounted seeing the first airplane fly over, seeing the first car that ever he was born before the turn of the century, over 100 years ago. Here we still have something that's just beautifully crafted pieces of metal that just mechanically run. It's kind of a tie to the past. The clock will run for a week, so at least once a week I need to go up the tower to keep the clock running. It's a purely mechanical clock. The only role whatsoever the electricity plays is to light a light bulb at night that shines to light up the 4 clock dials so that people outside can see. Other than that, it's purely mechanical. There's large weights that hang from a cable, and that gravitational pull of those weights is what runs the clock. And so slowly those weights work their way down quite a distance, and it takes a week's time till they would reach the bottom and rest there, and then the clock would stop running. So once every week, at a minimum, I need to get up and literally wind the clock, turning a crank to lift that weight up so it can run for another week. I think it's a privilege to have a part in keeping the clock going for the future. As long as this courthouse that's over 100 years old is still in day-to-day use, I'd love to see the clock continue to be maintained and continue functioning for the next generation to see. Today, everything's electronic and digital, and yet here in Marion County, Kansas, that mechanical clock for over 100 years later is still chiming out. And if you visit town here, you'll hear it on the hour. It's only in a place like here, small town, Kansas, where there's still a functioning mechanical clock that hasn't been converted over to something modern. You're still paying a person on a week-by-week basis to go up and wind. Not many places continue to do that.
It's just such a beautiful little story of that clock. We have one other 5-minute one I'll let you watch. Do you have any questions about that? Again, I didn't make that one, so I know even less about that one. That's a great question that I have no idea. Hopefully that gets canceled soon. We have one more 5-minute one I'll let you watch since we have the time. This one is about the black squirrels.
Marysville has something that very, very, very few others have. Black squirrels. In 1912, Thomas McMahon shows, which wintered here in Marysville. One of the carnival's attractions was a cage of black squirrels, supposedly from Germany. The squirrels attracted the attention of a young, naive lad. According to the late Bill Thrum Jr., he saw the lad open the cage and release carnival animals. Squirrels quickly adjusted to Marysville.
Marysville became Black Squirrel City on October 16, 1972. So we're getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary. At that time, our city council members, they were just playing around, trying to put Marysville on the map. And so they started having silly conversations with other city councils, and all of a sudden we became Black Squirrel City.
The black squirrel is designated as Marysville's mascot, and hereafter shall be accorded all the rights and privileges including the freedom to trespass on all city property, immunity from traffic regulations, and the right of first choice to all black walnuts growing within the city. Knowingly maims or kills a black squirrel or entraps a black squirrel within the city shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, the conviction of which shall be punishable by a fine and imprisonment. In 2016, the Convention and Tourism people began a process of designing a black squirrel statue. Local businesses and organizations financed the statues, and then local and regional artists created the designs and painted them. Today there are 34 statues. The business could help shape the theme of each squirrel and where it would be placed.
Shirley is one of the squirrels that's named after Shirley Little. Shirley was a longtime employee at RX, so when you would walk in, you'd often see Shirley wearing fun jackets like this, always bright colors and lots of prints. She had a sweet tooth and she was a staple of our downtown. So when Shirley passed away, her family put this squirrel here in her honor.
As a child, which was in the 1950s mainly, I remember seeing an occasional black squirrel around, but they weren't as dominant as they are now. 1 out of 5 squirrels is a black squirrel. The others are all red squirrels. They say the best time is sunrise to see them, that's when they're out feeding the most. City Park is the best place. We have people that feed squirrels there, looked at it like, no, this isn't gonna help anything. But I'm wrong, I was wrong. My husband will be happy to hear that I admitted that I was wrong. And it's just been fun.
So that's all I have for you today. That is a good sampling, though, of what was shown last year at the film festival. There were a few other ones as well. But that kind of gives you an idea of what we did and what we started. And October 15th will be the next one. We haven't announced exact times, but we're super excited about our next one. I've started filming my next film, but I can't tell you what it's about yet. Any other questions? Thanks for letting me come in here and show off our films.
Thank you, Nick. All right. We will be back May 3rd with another program. Thank you all for coming.